Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, April 22nd, and we just got to the studio having some breakfast, and today's Thursday, so it's the back half of this vlog week. We are on level 3, Unit 3. The coolest part about this week's classes is that we learned how to tune those sample-based sounds and essentially turn any sound into an instrument that you can play on your MIDI keyboard. So that'll definitely be coming up tomorrow for Future Friday. We're having a lot of fun this week. This week's been a lot about these sample-based synths, and we're using a couple of the Ableton built-in ones, which are called Tension and Collision. And yeah, basically they just model sounds off of real life things. Of course, it's Thursday, so we have our mentor sessions at noon, and I'm really looking forward to that. Just ate my lunch after my mentor session with Carrie, and yeah, I think I shared a bit about it on Monday, but I don't know what it is. I've just been feeling bummed out. I don't know if it's just the weight of this pandemic. You know, I'm in a bit of a transitional period with my music. Things are going well, but it's just like a little underlying issue of like feeling bummed out. You know, it's nice to have a conversation with someone who has been there before. She's been in the music industry for a while now, and just to listen to her experience with this and like leveling up her music and different things like that, like, it's normal, it's common. Kind of the gist was like, I can't beat myself up over feeling bummed. If I feel bummed, just feel bummed, carry on, keep doing my work that I know I need to do, and this too shall pass. So yeah, that's my little message out there. Like, if you're in a place where you're struggling or you just feel like your music's not up to par, don't sweat it. Just keep going. Move through the murky waters, because on the other side of that is a level up. The biggest moments in my life in general have come as a direct result of going through some kind of struggle. That's what I got out of this mentor session, and I'm just really grateful to have someone to have these in-depth conversations about. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, April 23rd. We just got to the studio, and this morning we got Ableton open. Today is all about this week's projects. We have a physical modeling as well as a sample tuning project definitely coming up. Future Friday, I'm going to show you exactly how to build your own synths, essentially out of random sounds around your house. Learning this for the past 2 weeks, I'm definitely going to be paying attention more to my surroundings and just pulling up my phone and recording whatever. We're feeling good today, feeling a little better on the back half of the week here. I think we're just going to get to work. Welcome back to another episode of Future Fridays. I am so excited about this Future Friday. In a nutshell, I'm basically going to teach you how to turn any sound into your own instrument. This is cool because this is a direct follow-up from last week, and we're actually in the same project. So I showed you a little clip, took my water bottle and hit it like this. We recorded that with my desktop mic, threw it into Ableton, threw it into a simpler, and now we're going to take it a step further. So if you watched the vlog, you'll know that one of the things that I mentioned was you needed to pay attention to what key, what note, what frequency is popping up in your spectrum analyzer. And this is why it's a continuation, because I learned how to fully dial that in. So when you're hitting a key on the keyboard, you're actually hitting the proper frequency, the proper tone for whatever recording you put into this. Let's check out the recording again. A little too much reverb on there, but we have our sound. We recorded that by hitting our water bottle. First things first, we've narrowed down a small section here. When we go over to the keyboard and we hit C3, which if you look down here, the root note sample is automatically put on C3. So when I hit that, well, that is the generic tone that was made upon recording. C3 is just, as I mentioned before, C3 is basically the default note that will play the original sound. But we don't necessarily want that. When me hitting this, it's not actually C3. And we want it to be so we can play melodies on our keyboard. And so we need to figure out what root note this is actually playing. Every sound has a frequency. This has a pretty distinct one. So let's try and figure that out. So I got operator loaded up here, which is the basic bass sound. Let's check that out at C3, actual tone of C3. Okay, so that's C3. Now let's go back up to our sound here. It feels close already, so let's just move around a couple keys. So when you switch back and forth, when you go to the actual sample, you always want to go back to C3 because that's playing that neutral, that recorded in note. Okay, now we switch back. We were trying a D, let's try a D sharp. And that's in operator, which is playing the true key tone. That might be a bit confusing, but just keep following. So, okay, so we're playing D sharp. Let's go back to our recording. Okay. That sounds pretty good. Just to explain this a bit clearer. You record in a sample. That sample has its natural tone. When you put that sample into Ableton's sample-based synthesizer, Simpler, by hitting C3, you are playing the original tone. And so by having something like operator up, operator, when you hit a key on the keyboard anywhere, is playing that actual key. Your recorded sample is not, but it defaults to the root of C3. And so we can use operator and we can kind of listen to that original sound. And we can, okay, that's too high. That's too low. Oh, let's check that one out again. That sounds good. And so where this can get confusing is when you go back to the original sample, you need to make sure you're hitting C3 because that's going to play the actual recorded original sample sound. So I hope that that clears things up. Original sample, you're playing C. You're trying to figure out what key it's in by using operator, which is actually playing the proper tones. We are thinking right now that the note D sharp is the correct tone of our sample. So what we're going to do is come down here to the root and we are going to change it to that note. So D sharp is the note we were hitting in operator. So now what it's going to do is it just moved that original tone from our sample to D3. So now when we hit D3, it's the same sound. Let's hit C now. It's a different sound. But now if we go to our operator and we hit C, we go back. So this is about using your ear, but I'm going to show you a really handy little trick. Icon kind of harps on ear training, learning to listen for the different frequencies, but sometimes it can get confusing. In this case, it was only a couple keys away. We figured it out pretty quick. But let's open up Spectrum here and let's hit that D3 and let's make sure in the actual Spectrum analyzer that we are also hitting D sharp. There it is, D sharp. It's perfectly in key. So it just goes to show that using your Spectrum analyzer, trusting your ears, playing around on the keyboard with the piano or an operator sound, trying to match the tones, knowing that when you first load a sample into Simpler, C3 is the default for any original recorded sound. Essentially, I've basically just created this unique, almost bell-sounding pluck just from a random object that I struck against something else right in my studio. And now that we have it in the proper key, when I hit the keyboard, it plays the right note. We've essentially just created an actual instrument. The possibilities with this are literally endless, and there's no way anyone in the world would be able to duplicate that exact strike, that exact hit, loading it in this way, putting effects on it just like I have. Pretty freaking cool if you ask me. All right, that is it for Future Friday this week. Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, April 24th. We just got to the studio a little while ago, finishing off the keys assignments for this week. Soon as we're done that, we are jumping into sound design Saturdays. This week, we are going to be sound designing on the synth Spire. As I've said, the past couple sound design Saturdays that's the cool thing about switching synths and using different synths is not only does each synth have a bit of a different algorithm, so you get a bit of a different result, but the whole layout and the way that sounds are processed are also different, which results in something slightly unique from its brothers and sisters. This is my third sound design Saturday, and I use 4 main synths: Dune, Silent, Spire, and Serum. I do have a couple others. One's called Obsession from the same people that made Dune. I'll probably throw that one into the mix. Once I do all 5 of those, I'll be cycling on back through, and the more comfortable I get doing sound design, the better, because it's going to evolve, right? And I think just that general freedom to like hear, a bassy pluck and then want to recreate it, but then just allow whatever's unfolding to take place. Like maybe that bassy pluck goes away and that turns into a synth pluck instead, right? Maybe it sounded better up the octaves than down, and then I just roll with it. So like this kind of experimentation, I am reassured over and over and over again by Q&As, by my mentors. This is where you stumble across unique things that make you stand out. And then over time, those unique things become your sound, just by letting the process unfold as it should. That's my insight for you today. If you're frustrated, one of the things my mentor said on Thursday was, go play. And she didn't mean, go play outside and forget about it. She meant, if you're sitting there frustrated, or you're trying to write, or you're trying to do this, do the opposite. So if I'm trying to write a melody, just stop. Go do sound design. If I'm sound designing, I'm getting frustrated, just stop. Pull up a pluck. Let's see if we can get a melody going. Or let's just do some keys practice. Stuff like that, right? Allow yourself the freedom to play around and do what you want and experiment with those things that you've been thinking about that you wanted to experiment with. Allow yourself the mental freedom to do so, because I guarantee you, as soon as that paradox happens where you allow yourself to do that, something is going to happen for you. We're going to get this keys assignment done, and then I will see you soon to show you what we come up with for Sound Design Saturday. Welcome back to another episode of Sound Design Saturday, and we are using Spire this time. I'd say one of the most used synthesizers that I have. In the trance world, this thing is a shining star, that is for sure. We made 19 different sounds today. So without further ado, we are going to jump in. This one's going to be a bit quicker. We're going to try to keep things rolling real fast so it doesn't get boring. Sound number 1, massive supersaw. Sound number 2, harder bass intro. Elated super huge saw. Basic thick pluck. Basic trance rolling bass. Wide saw bass. Dark drone bass. Detuned supersaw lead. Retro pads. Beautiful bed pad. Hype detune lead. Techno fill stab. Intro bass synth topper. Techno pluck. Detuned atmosphere pad. Square tri accent pluck. Very basic solid pluck. Wah wah techno pluck. Techno drone bass. So there you have it. That is the third Sound Design Saturday, and this time we created 19 different sounds. I'm super stoked about the way that my sound design journey is going. And yeah, if you have any questions about this or you want this sample pack, shoot me a follow, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I would be more than happy to send it your way. That is it for Sound Design Saturday today.